What I do is inconsequential. Why I do what I do is I get to shorten people's journeys every day. What I love about our hospitality industry is that it's our mission to make people feel cared for while on their journeys. Together, we'll explore what hospitality means in the built environment, in business, and in our daily lives. I'm Dan Ryan, and this is Defining Hospitality. This podcast is sponsored by Berman Falk Hospitality Group, a design-driven furniture manufacturer who specializes in custom case goods and seating for hotel guest rooms. Today's guest is somebody with 20 years of experience designing. She's been featured in Hospitality Design Magazine, The Org, Condé Nast, Forbes, The Wall Street Journal, and been on the cover of CEO in 2024. Her design studio won 2022's Gold Key Award for Design Firm of the Year by HD Magazine. She's the newest member of the board for Braemar Hospitality. She's the owner and principal of Studio 11 Design with sister companies Lou Verne, which does art and curation, and Brand Bottega, which is a branding agency. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome my friend, Kellie Sirna. Welcome, Kellie.
Thank you. I was going to say, and I'm your friend.
Longtime friend. And we've been trying to do this for so long, and I'm so happy that this is happening. Because, you know, you've won all these accolades, you've gotten all this press, but I always say good things come to those who wait. So thank you for being here.
I'm excited. We've been looking forward to this for a while. You're right.
Good. And I also think, well, before we get into it, I know that we've been looking forward to it for a while. But I think that's also a good metaphor for just all the peaks and the constant peaks that we all encounter as entrepreneurs. And right when you think you've gotten somewhere, the next peak becomes visible. And it's like, wow, how do we get there? And you have a lot of new and exciting things happening in your life and world. So we'll get into that. But before we do, you've been working in hospitality design for 20 years or more. What's kept you in here and kept you building these companies and just being who you are? What does hospitality mean to you?
One, I realized shortly after starting Studio 11 that I'm a serial entrepreneur. And my love for hospitality runs very deep, which I think it has to in order for us to survive in this industry. But it's always kind of, to your point, looking for that next peak and that next step and how to continue to scale and grow. But the people in hospitality were a different breed. I think, we live and breathe hospitality. It's who we are. So I don't know, it just keeps me going. It's exciting.
How would you classify all of us as a different breed? Like I'm guilty of the same addiction to our industry, and I'm a raving fan of everyone in our industry and why we do what we do. What is it about you? What keeps you in it?
I think it's a personality trait that I think we all have in common. And I realized it during COVID, when we weren't all able to be together, but we love hosting, we love entertaining. And we've talked about this, Dan, like my job is to create the backdrop for everyone's beautiful memories, and experiences. And so I think creating experiences sums it up. So we all have kind of go in our different areas and our different consultants, but all bringing together something really beautiful in the end for the guests to experience, whether it's in a restaurant, a hotel, a music venue, private club, all of those things. We're all wanting to create this beautiful experience for people.
I want to share with the guests. So those are the guests. You're the guest. I want to share with the listeners. For those who are watching, you don't need the verbal here, but when we had our alignment call a couple weeks ago, there was one painting behind you, one brick wall. There was that beautiful drapery. But every time I ask you about the brick wall, the drapery, or the paintings, you really light up because on your entrepreneurial journey and climbing that next peak, you bought this building you're in, and you freaking light up so much when you talk about it. So tell us about this current peak you're climbing up.
So I bought this building last year, last April, and it wasn't on the market. I walked through and it was perfect. Like we wouldn't have had to change anything. The building's from 1904, all the natural light. It's 3 stories. So the first story is kind of a creative workspace for the team. We're going to have a beautiful 14-foot island, a show kitchen so we can host dinners and events, a beautiful library for the team, which they deserve now more than ever since they've kind of been living out of containers for the time being, waiting for furniture to get in. I swear we do this for a living. And then the floor is the studio. It's a really beautiful, huge open workspace with the original wood floors and exposed ceilings. And then the third floor houses the Luverne art team, conference space, my office, which I love. I'm on the road so much. So I really welcome the team to use my office as go-to meeting space. There's a sofa so they can rest up. I've got a little loft up here for my boys, even as they are towering over 6 feet now. They have their little PlayStation. And so it's just been a really incredibly happy place for me. I think the energy here, the original owner was the first Black architect owner and also the first Black hospital in Dallas. So it just has an incredible energy to it, and it's a really happy place.
Hmm. If we go back to when you founded Studio 11 and you took that first step, where were you before Studio 11? Or Duncan Miller, maybe?
Yep.
Was that Duncan Miller? Oh, wow. Wow. Holy cow. So when you got up the courage and the gumption to like say, you know what, I want my own shingle, I want to do this. What year was that?
It's funny, if you'd asked me 3 months before I started Studio 11, if you would have told me I would have been an entrepreneur and I was starting a company, I would have been like, absolutely not. I actually had a psychic, crazy enough, in 2010, tell me I was going to start a company. And I was like, that's insane. I saw what Kimberly and Turner went through, and it was like just so much and so high, so low, and so many things. And so I really was like, absolutely not. And then I met Stacy and we had coffee a couple of times and just really had such different perspectives on how to approach design. And I really attribute starting a company to her because I wouldn't have done it without kind of her expertise and her really knowing the other side of the business. And
Mm.
so we had a really incredible decade, great run of building Studio 11 is something that we never anticipated.
What year did you guys make, I don't know, have that conversation of like, okay, let's try this?
2011.
Oh, it's 20. Oh,
Yeah.
Studio 11. Oh my
Yeah.
God. I'm a freaking idiot. I had no idea.
We tried to make a really good deep story, but it's really the only thing we could kind of come up with that we agreed on, and it was kinda rushed, like, we were like it was go time as soon as we started.
Okay. So let's just go with, okay. So it's 2011. Thank you, moron Dan. How did I not know that? Anyway, um, could you imagine it being 2024, April 2024, um, in 2011, like when you closed on this building that you're in now and where you are and the teams in Charleston, Atlanta, and Dallas, like if you could like go back to that the moment when you guys started, could you ever imagine where you are now?
No. I was really in survival mode, and I everyone that knows me knows my ex-husband is one of my closest friends and co-parents beautifully with me and allows me to build and supports my career. But I was divorced and had 1 and 3-year-olds 6 months into Studio 11. So it was sort of like a go time survival. I was like, okay, if I can hit 6 figures and, keep my house, and which I think my mortgage was like $1,800 at the time. I was like, okay, that was my goal. And I think it's why I've never been great at like setting goals for the year, which I probably need to start looking into. But what we built was just really, we scaled every year. So it was wild. And even in through COVID, we did, we survived and without letting anyone go. And really proud of the fact that 14 years and I've never once had to let anyone go for financial reasons.
Mm.
So but yeah, with a little over 50 people, sometimes I wake up and I'm like, I might have girl bossed a little too hard, but I love it. I love, we have just an incredibly solid team right now, and I love what we're building. And I know we'll touch on art and branding, which I'm very passionate about as well. But yeah, I think the building, I've stood, I walked in this morning, and as I see all this furniture being installed, I'm like, this little girl that grew up in Kansas, and, my parents are very entrepreneurial, but that they didn't go to college, and they they look at me like, what's YPO? And what's, what do you mean a board? It's been very surreal because I haven't really had a lot of time to reflect.
I think that is why I like, as I'm speaking to you, thinking about using that metaphor of you get to the top of one mountain and the next mountain is ahead of you. You get to the top of the, it's not even considering the valleys between them, but you're just, as entrepreneurs, you're always seeing where you're going. And goals are cool, but they're also, I think, in a way, also limiting. Don't get me wrong, I set goals and I'm like militant about my goals. But when you went out and you had a 1-year-old and a 3-year-old, you're a new mom. You're just thinking about that 800 or $1,800 mortgage payment, and that was the summit there, right? And then you hit it, and you're like, now what? Hmm, now what? Now what? And it's like by the end of it, you're sitting in this beautiful office with this triptych behind you, um, in this building you own, and it's like I love the Kansas metaphor because it's like you're not in Kansas anymore.
Yeah, I haven't thought of it that way, but yeah,
Are
it
you wearing ruby slippers?
no, but I would be if they were, if I could find some good ones, I'd be in for sure. I think it could tell a story. No, I'll have to send you a picture of these 3 paintings. Our art team put these together. Christy,
Mm.
one of our artists who I'm just constantly amazed by them. But this one you can't really see, so I'll send it to you. But it's got a painting of the boys and they're kind of laughing and talking um and it's got like the fountains down here in the corner for my Kansas City Plaza roots. It goes through kind of the story. This is sort of my personal story. And then the red is Studio 11 and some of our iconic projects. This is our first music venue, our logo, the building that we started in Dallas and grew for 13 years. And
Wow.
then the screen painting is Dr. Blewett, the original owner of this building, and really a tribute to him and looking at all of the things as an entrepreneur he had to overcome as a minority in Dallas, and hosting people, the first African American hospital with people with tuberculosis. And it tells his whole story here, which is pretty incredible.
Um, Having met your team in Atlanta within the past year, I think we had like an impromptu dinner that was super duper fun. I may have had one too many martinis, but we'll ignore that. Um, from the time before you ascended that first summit, so like you hadn't gone there, you're like, I want to get my mortgage paid. I got my 1-year-old, my 3-year-old. How do you think as your company has grown and scaled, how do you think your leadership has changed?
Oh, it's been a learning curve for me. And I'm constantly growing in that area.
Mm,
I had never really led a team until I started Studio 11. I had interns and people under me or things, but it was definitely one of the biggest challenges because I'm sometimes 250 miles down the road and and I don't communicate as well as and so it's definitely been something where um, I've had a really incredible team that I've learned so much from, talent that I just am amazed by all the time. But yeah, that's definitely been something that I've grown in over 14 years. But I love to collaborate and I love to mentor. And I think when you get the right team that you want to pour into and invest in, that's the most exciting part of what I do
mm.
above everything else, above a building and above, being financially secure, which is, nice, secure-ish. You never know, right? But
Well, hey, even when you get to that level of security, again, it's that next summit is ahead of you. You lit up right there when you talked about mentoring. Tell us more about that. Why do you love it so much?
I think being that serial entrepreneur, I've had several designers that have come to me. One of them came to me kind of nervous, like she felt bad quitting. And she's like, I kind of want to try this on my own. And I'm like, are you kidding? Like, I was so excited to this day, like the hair standing up on the back of my head right now because I'm so proud of her. And I think it says a lot about this firm that she felt like, she was at a point and she'd gotten enough growth here that that was her next step. And we've had several people we've kind of tried to mentor and help and support. And I was really grassroots trying to figure everything out as I went. And so, I've been very open book with people. We had a girl approach us in a restaurant not too long ago. It's one up the street. So I'm there often because it's just next door. And she was like, I've seen you in this building and, seen you in the restaurant a lot. And I heard you're a designer and I looked you up. And she works with us now and kind of helps run the office and just got enrolled in design school. And she's surrounded by 30 something designers that are mentoring her and seeing that through. And I want to be the support that I wished I'd had.
Mm.
I didn't even know that I needed at the time, but it's been really incredible watching some of these designers build their own careers with me. It's definitely been an honor.
The idea of mentorship comes up often in these discussions I've had with people over the past handful of years, and sometimes not when we're recording, but like off the recording or just in conversations, people are like, "Yeah, I'd like to mentor more," but like they envision this really formal program or policy or playbook to like how to mentor, and this is what it is, and it's this much time. But I've also found, okay, you can have a very developed mentorship program within a company, but it also doesn't have to have such a high bar as well. It could just be like approaching that woman at the restaurant, for instance. If you were to like, from your experience in your career and also as an entrepreneur, um, there's a spectrum of like that playbook or that policy of mentoring to just like a few words passing by in a grocery store, for instance. How do you see mentorship?
I think it's individualized. And so I see different people being incentivized and I I want to say women, but I love, in my YPO group, like talking to men as well and anybody that's interested in that I feel like I can, lend anything that I've learned along the way to. But I can really identify now talent and identify people that have that hustle. And you get people that come through that want to skip all the steps, and I encourage them. And I'm pretty open, I'm a pretty honest person. I encourage them to not skip the steps because um, there's just no way to get there to get here easily and really appreciate and really be able to um, get everything out of it if you're trying to just walk into something and feel like you know everything out of the gate. So with mentoring, I think it's individualized. I love mentoring as a woman in the industry. I feel like I could write the book on, being a woman in the industry and definitely have had some incredible male mentors. But, there's crazy things that happen along the way that I wished I'd had a mentor to kind of learn from. So talking to designers, talking to women on how to command a room and how to dress the part and be your own brand. Aside from Studio 11, like be your own brand because as a designer, you walk in and you're commanding a room and you're trying to get these owners to trust you with a $33 million renovation. And if you're not just the part, it's hard to get that, trust from them. Listening, I think, is a big one too. But I think it's just based on individual needs. I'm thinking of different designers and different conversations that we've had, even in the past week, on how to approach a situation, how to negotiate. Um, Clients that, are, a little challenging and how to maneuver that um, tight wire between brand and client.
I'm hearing you speak as the mentor, but I would also say like, well, I'm not going to say it. I'm going to ask you, like, for the mentee who's maybe like, oh, I don't have one. Uh, like, I'm nervous. I don't want to ask. And you're saying like, take the first steps. What do you say to that mentee? Not necessarily just for you, but someone who's like, God, I really want to mentor. How do I, how do I take that first step? What do you say that first step is?
So it's funny you say this. I had a broker friend, he's very connected in Dallas, and he said, my client reached out. He has a daughter. She's does not quite sure what she wants to do, but he asked me to reach out to, I don't know how many, like three or four influential women in Dallas, and have coffee with my daughter. And I thought it was brilliant and I ended up hiring this girl for marketing and she was amazing. And, kind of mentored her for a bit. And I think she was with me for a year or two and kind of sort of found her path and what she wanted to do. But even if you don't get a job from that, I would encourage, young people to get the communication skills, put themselves out there, find someone that maybe is along the path or along the career that you want to be in, reach out to them and ask them for coffee. And even if you don't get the job, you have then, let's just say, 4 women in the city that are unequivocally going to want to see you succeed. You
Mm.
can go back to them with questions later. You can, ask for introductions. Like I think that's a great start. I mean, when I referred to Reem, my friend that's working with us now, that she approached me in a restaurant and was like, "How do I start? I love what you do. I'm hitting walls and becoming a designer. And how do I start?" And Reem's first day with me, we were in workout clothes, diving through we were covered in dust because I said, "Listen, I'm going to be up at the building tomorrow. If you want to come work with me, I'll pay you hourly and we can talk. You can look at fabrics and finishes and sort of kind of, get acquainted with our manufacturers and library." And she was there and she worked 8 or 9 hours with me that day, just cleaning out our office.
Mm.
And again, it goes back to not skipping the steps and not thinking you're too good, because here I am. I'm the only one up here, cleaning, and I'm the plumber and the whatever.
The chef, the cook, and the bottle washer.
Yes, exactly. But, insert yourself where you can, even if it's starting with coffee, and just put yourself out there.
Mm. I love it. And oftentimes, like people, if they're just nervous, I love how you said just ask them to coffee and like I have a couple questions. I want like that's all it is, really. Because if you really are vulnerable and just take that step and ask, people just want to help. Or not
Yeah.
everyone, most people, I would say, would want to help. And then in our industry of hospitality and hospitality design, I think we're just wired to do that as
Yes.
well.
I will say one more thing, Dan, because I think this was, and you can ask Ed Kuester about this. It's kind of funny. He was over for dinner one night, this was years ago. The boys were smaller, but our the younger generation doesn't really communicate well. They don't know how to communicate anymore or socialize. Everything's through games, phone, Snapchat, all of these things. And so early on, I told my boys that when they meet someone new, without me being, prompting them, that they need to ask 3 questions. Um, and so when they meet you, they'll ask, "Where do you live? Are you married?" Like, they're learning how to have conversations with people. And because of that, at 14 and 16, there's a level of confidence where they can go to dinner with their friends and order. They can have an adult conversation, have a conversation with an adult and look them in the eyes and shake hands. And I think that was getting a little lost. And I noticed that with them younger. They were like, "We can't order our food. Like, that's cool. We can't, we're going to wait, peek around the corner till the DoorDash guy is gone," because they don't want to socialize. And now they're like, "Hey, man, thanks so much." And so I think it's, learning to socialize and communicate and network.
Okay, so what 3 questions did they ask Ed?
They go up definitely like, "Are you married?" And Ed's like, "Yes." And they go, "To a girl?" And Ed said, "No." And they go, "Okay, no further questions."
Oh, they stopped at 2.
But Ed and I laugh. I mean, we were dying laughing. He was over just having soup with us, and it was awesome. It was really cute.
Awesome, Ed. Thank you for being a part of the development of the children. Um, my kids, they'll ask a question. I like to ask 3 questions because it kinda keeps you around longer, and I've noticed that they have been asking a question more,
Mhm.
but I'm gonna bring this up. Although it's really weird because I just can't bring up anything as my own idea. It's like someone I have to find someone else to raise it with them. So I'm gonna
Share this podcast and be like, "Oh, wow, this is a
yeah,
cool idea."
I'm gonna pencil that one. I gotta figure out how the delivery method.
As the boys have gotten older, they're a little bit reluctant, and I'm like, "You know what to do." And they know they don't wanna be embarrassed and have me, like, ask 3 questions. So
Mhm.
they're like, "All right, before she embarrasses us, we're just gonna go ahead and do this." So
Hey, everybody. We've been doing this podcast for over 3 years now. And one of the themes that consistently comes up is sustainability. And I'm just really proud to announce that our sponsor, Berman Falk Hospitality Group, is the first within our hospitality industry to switch to sustainable and recyclable packaging, eliminating the use of styrofoam. Please check out their impact page in the show notes for more info. Oh wow. Ask 3 questions. Okay, I'm going with 3s. So you have these 2 other sister companies. One does branding, one does art. Uh, I found oftentimes the most successful projects as a furniture person doing custom furniture for hotels are the ones where the brand is 100% like really thought out and the pillars established, and then that trickles down to all the other consultants and all the other I don't know, like the thesis of what the overall project is. It surprises me that so many design firms, especially in hospitality, don't have a branding component, because to me it seems like it's a great dovetail. What gave you the idea to start that? And I assume you're not given a contract on every project to do all three, but like, what would the perfect type of project be for you, knowing that you have this like this three-legged stool to build off of?
I'll start by saying the strategy behind Brand Bottega and Luverne is, and what I always say is, getting the client's trust and having them sit at the table is the hardest part of what we do. Once you gain their trust, it's what other services would they be interested in? Brand Bottega, we're not trying to be everything to everyone. So we primarily, you know, work with other branding companies really well. And the great thing is with, this small boutique branding component to Studio 11, even my design team speaks branding and is very well versed in branding. So even third party branding consultants love working with us because we understand it and we know kind of the ethos of branding. So I think it flows better and helps us work with them better as well. But in 2018, I had a client, Greg Clay with JMI, who's an incredible mentor as I was building Studio 11. And he basically said, if you want this project, you need to do the branding. And I was like, I don't have branding. And he's like, figure it out. And so I went and figured it out. So it's very,
Did he give you an extra fee for that?
he definitely did.
Okay, good. Good work, Greg.
He did, and it was great, and it's a great offering because we do have clients that are like, "We want this to be all in-house," and so, we'll do collateral, menu design, right down to uniform,
Mm.
and we get, wayfinding is sometimes in there, but the branding team will sometimes just weigh in on our design projects as well. So, that's been a great just kind of boutique ad.
Next time you're doing uniform, you gotta give Alexa a call.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
She
I
does
love
that.
it. I'm a super fan of her.
I know. So am I. You should start a fan club.
I should. I'm just glad she got her Instagram back because I was really missing her updates.
Oh
So
yeah, she got hacked there for a while and had to wait for Mark Zuckerberg to get back.
that was wild. Um, but I'll touch on the art if you like, Dan. Like,
Please do that.
just as an example, my team did the pieces behind me, and we collaborate really well with art manufacturers and art vendors. We use Kevin Barry quite a bit, but we love to bring that art package in house and develop the art package. Our in-house artists will take some of those pieces and really
Mm.
personalize it for these projects. So as designers, we work really hard on these narratives at the very beginning of a project. It's the first thing we do. And it's not the story of the city and it's not the story, it's really the neighborhood. So Nashville is an example, we're really honing in on that neighborhood. And it's not going to be guitars on the wall or the obvious. We're really telling that deep story. So Countrypolitan is a really good example. And then my art team is going out and really finding new and up and coming artists. And some of them, Archer is one of them for Thompson Buckhead that has since just blown up. But watching him like roll in this incredible sculpture that he carved from wood and being a part of building his art career, those are such rewarding things. And it really engages the community,
Mm.
tells our narrative and tells our story. And we're still able to collaborate with, our art vendors in the industry, but holding that narrative and holding that story close to us. And I think it really, my CFO calls it our nonprofit because it's not like we're going to make a ton of money, but I truly believe we elevate our projects. And even for a project like a Hilton Garden Inn in downtown Austin, every piece of art was sculptural or an installation. We had 3 different installations in the public spaces of a Hilton Garden Inn. And we're able to afford to do that because we have our in-house art team.
That's not your typical Hilton Garden Inn, then.
It's it's really beautiful.
Thank you for sharing.
Yeah.
And I want to go back to, you said, I'm sure there's other clients out there. When you were talking about Greg Clay, you said he trusts us, and you really lit up when he said that. And I've been doing a lot of thinking. It's oftentimes we're not able to say no to work, right? But we would all like to do more work with people we know, like, and trust. I think it just makes everything more enjoyable on a project. I think it makes everything more profitable on a project. If you were to talk about who your ideal client and project is or would be, um, how do you describe that client that you know, like, and trust, and you're just such a great collaborator and you execute really well for them and they do right by you?
We can really tell through the proposal process what kind of client we're looking at. Um, it's in the value that they put on design. So that's always a really good indicator. We've kind of got that down pat. I really rely on some of our close relationships, architects, some of our project manager friends that we have a relationship with that know our ethos and will bring in some really incredible clients. And it's the clients that trust us that when we're able to create something really beautiful, when we're put restraints on or and obviously we want everyone to weigh in. We're extremely collaborative, but when it's like we don't want any live plants in the hotel at all. It's like, man, that's a tough one. But we've been doing this long enough that when we're given the creative freedom and we have that great collaboration with an owner, Greg is a great example. He's just a very idea driven person, but he also wants to bring us to the table early to talk about new programming ideas and what do we want this room to be? And is it going to be a podcast studio? Do we want this to be flex space? Like right now, we've got a private club downtown installing that's this beautiful indoor pickleball court, like beautiful wood floors, but it's a brass inlay. And, but what is that going to be at night? And how does that generate revenue differently? And so we really, the net comes up and it's strategically thoughtful that it can be a banquet space, a venue, you can host a concert, all the acoustics are there. And so when we have an owner that's like, yeah, that's cool, like, let's do it, we're able to kind of expand on our creativity and go deeper than just like pretty things, right? We're thinking like an owner and generating revenue um, and creating different experiences for the guest, even throughout the day.
And then let's say, you get all these proposals over your desk. Um, how do you determine when you're going through the request for proposal from them, like, how do you determine if they do value design? Is it just a number thing, or is it the way things are worded, or it's presented to you? Like, how do you know?
Several different things. I think when they're really putting restraints on scope, trying to think of a recent example. Um,
And you can name and shame them. I'm just kidding.
how do I not name and shame them, but still give you what you're looking for, answer your question? No, I really think it's, when they're really trying to chop up everything and be like, "We don't need you at the end of the project." I'm like, "Oh my gosh," like, you know, "We don't need CA,"
People actually say that.
or like, "But you do,"
Oh my
or
god. Like, so from that's really surprising to me because I thought that they would definitely want you
yeah,
there, if for any other part at that part, to help solve problems or challenges or whatever's going on, because to me, it's like that last month or last 2 weeks or week or even days that's the part that everyone remembers. Like,
yep,
that's
yeah, and it's really where or if they're bringing people on, consultants on that are kind of like, "Oh, this tile is the same as this tile, and it's $9 less," and it's like, "It's not the same, guys. It's not the same." And so, if during VE exercises, we really wanna be a part of that because we wanna identify what that guest is really gonna experience, and it may be that we do a less expensive tile, but there's a moment that we don't wanna give up, lighting and so sometimes, we'll get a GC and the owner's given them free rein to kind of VE for us, and so there's things like that that kind of it's mostly inexperience when your consultants aren't valued in a way to do what they do best. It's usually from inexperience.
one of the things that I find surprising and also frustrating on projects is I know how these projects are done, from a renovation to a reposition and acquisition. They're underwritten. There's a financial model that they know what it needs to be, and they know what the budget is. And unfortunately for what we do, FF&E is usually like the last line item on a development budget, and it's, I think, arguably one of the most important. Obviously, I have bias, but it's the one that all the people going into the building are interacting with. And it would seem to me like, in sailing they call it dead reckoning, when you're in a boat and you know which direction you're going, you know the speed you're going, you kind of have to figure out and plot a course that way. But oftentimes we're not given a north star on projects to point to. And I find that we're all so collaborative, and great outcomes happen with those few owners that say, this is what it's going to cost, this is what I have, these are the brand pillars I want to accomplish. Now you guys are the pros, go do it. And that's when that collaboration happens. It doesn't happen everywhere. Those are with the people that you know, like, and trust. You find that as well?
Yes, yeah. Um, I love when we're able to really engage the client, engage the brand, and charrette. And I use the example often of our Thompson Buckhead and Thompson Savannah. And, the brand changed throughout that project. It wasn't a Thompson when we initially were designing it, but Chris Alvarado is such an incredible collaborator. And he flew down for a couple of days. And I joke that we did like 15-hour days and in a war room in our office. And we just kind of shot ideas back and forth. And I felt like it saved months of back and forth and formal submittals and all of these things. And it was so wonderful. And he's so talented and so amazing and so collaborative. And so it really was how we love to approach, designing with brands at this point. We did a dream hotel group. We're working on a project now. Super excited. It's our first with them. And their team flew down and we had 2 full days. And it was like our conference room. I have to send you a picture of this because it's like all the brick walls are just covered in imagery. We had full scale plans. We're all sketching. We have trace paper. And, when I talked about Chris, we had a trash can full of coffee mugs and tequila bottles. I mean, we went from coffee to tequila for like 3 days straight and just designed Thompson Buckhead together. It was really fun.
That sounds like a fun meeting.
It is. And from that point, you're able to just take it and run and you get the brand ethos. And we love it, especially for first projects. And we were very fortunate that owner was like, we're not designers, do what you do. And they would have little comments here and there about things they liked or didn't like, but really for the most part that we were trusted to kind of run with it. And then we have a different type of owner, Dan, who's like, you know, like Greg is an example. He's got ideas for days, Countrypolitan in Nashville. It was like, we want this to be a food and beverage outlet. And Jeff Burns is like, let's take the booths out and create a stage and a music venue. So the guest is having breakfast there. They, leave for dinner. When they come back, their food and beverage area is a venue. And
Mm.
so that's an example of like some great ownership um, collaborations as well.
Let's do a little bit of manifesting together.
Okay.
So
I love this.
yeah, you have this new building. You're working with all these people. You have all these clients that you know, like, and trust, and the feelings are mutual. You're looking out at that next peak. What's like the dream scenario for you in the future?
Was this project related or just goals in general?
You pick.
Okay. Well, I'm definitely in love and addicted to this commercial real estate gig. So continuing to build in that area. I'd love to have some Studio 11 design branded residences so the team can be incentivized to go hang out in our Studio 11 home in Costa Rica and wherever else. Um,
Can I go too?
yeah,
Okay, good.
absolutely.
Great.
You're part of the fan.
I know I won't be invited unless Alexa's with me.
Oh, I mean, seriously,
Yeah.
you know the drill. Um, One of the most recent incredibly strategic moves, I'm so excited, and you're one of the first to know actually, is Jen Talbot is a residential designer. I have fangirled over her for half a decade, and I've really kind of mentored her into hospitality and, told her, here's who you need to connect with. Here's where you need to go.
Can we switch the word mentor with brainwashed?
Yeah, absolutely. You're not wrong. And after a while, she's like, I could go build a hospitality firm and She'd kind of been in it and gaining some momentum, and I was very confident and told her, like, "You could do this on your own,
Mm.
or you could come join me, and we could collaborate and bring your portfolio in-house and your expertise in residential." She's got this very cool kinda Kelly Wearstler vibe that she's incredible. And so Jen most recently joined our team, and I am so excited.
So that was like a person you manifested.
Yeah,
Wow.
accidentally, like, I didn't even know
Wow.
we'd been talking about really upping our game in luxury, and elevating our, creative initiatives, and so Jen is really overseeing creative. She's our creative director, overseeing creative with me, and, um, in order to continue to scale the company, I can't really be, the creative for a lot of these projects, and with that said too, we have just an incredible team that, post this restructuring, and buyout and then COVID and all these things, this year, I feel is my year. We've got this unbelievable team. I feel like we finally have all the parts and pieces put
Mm.
together, and now it's just about scaling. It's really not this person isn't working or what's going wrong or we have 5 positions to fill. Everything's just really beautiful. We have this unbelievable team right now, and now it's just strategy, which is so exciting.
Yeah, that's yeah. Okay, so that's like the bigger picture manifestation, right? What about on like give me a dream project. Paint a picture of what a dream project is.
Oh my gosh. We're really we've got a project in Bahrain right now that in Saudi that we're really excited and hope comes to fruition with a really incredible group of architects and master planners that we've been really excited and trying to work with for a while. So they brought us in to kind of look at that with them and be a part of their team. And then we're really wanting to expand in Central America, Latin America, and really start to go international. Studio 11 scaled so quickly domestically. And with my boys being, kind of at an age where I didn't want to be gone for long
Mm.
periods of time, it's been amazing. But now we're sort of ready to kind of like grow outside a bit. And I think that will also start to attract a different kind of talent as well.
Studio Once.
Yeah. You are such a nerd. I love you.
Okay, cool. So international expansion and you know what's cool about I love all those Saudi projects and just the ones that happen out there on the Arabian Peninsula because they're often whether it's a palace or these crazy master planned hotels, there's constraints on everything. So I don't want to like say there are no constraints because there are, but it really does seem that they believe in the design and like kind of like set you free in a way to like, okay, do your thing and be aspirational and we'll support you as long as we can.
This particular project has some guest chalets. It has a farm. It has it's just it's a home, but it's like a boutique hotel.
Mm.
So
Cool.
it's just a really exciting project. And we love those new challenges. I remember when we got, Greer and I worked on our first, and this is kind of a reference to that project as our first music venue at the Hutton Hotel in Nashville. And creating a music venue with celebrity penthouses that we put in like padded secret rooms with VHS tapes and so a songwriter could get up in the middle of the night and have the jam out and kind of hear music.
With literal VHS tapes, I figure like they wouldn't even know what they are. Like, what is this VHS tape? That's cool.
Right? No, I mean, yeah, it was just a wall of VHS tapes. And the crazy thing is I look back on that project, we have 0 photos of this room. Like, it really is, like, private. Um, but we had to work through, like, all of the logistics of security and how they're getting in and out. We had to do AV and RV hookups and then the 2 writers' rooms we worked on with Dirk Bentley and Ryan Tedder with One Republic, and they were incredible. We got to kind of tell their story about
Mhm.
their childhood and different things with them, and, sourcing that project with our art team was I mean, sourcing in Nashville by itself is just like a dream.
Oh, yeah, I've been to some crazy ass flea markets around there. It's unbelievable. It's really cool. I wanna go back to the mountain metaphor because we've manifested, Again, once we get to the top, there's always the next peak. What's exciting you most about the future?
I mean, I'll be really honest, and this may not be the right answer. I'm so excited about having this building for my team. I feel like it's my gift to them. It's going to be an incredible workspace and bringing chefs in and having creative experiences. I'm really, really excited. I've got new life. This is sort of my passion project right now. And I have a energy, not to say I haven't in the years past, but they've been really tough. I mean, quite frankly, 2024 was probably our toughest year in terms of like just projects kind of dipping and going on hold and pricing exercises, and it's on and it's off and it's canceled.
Oh, wait, so I'm not alone?
No,
Oh, thank God.
2024 was tougher financially than COVID.
Yeah. Well, because COVID, things just stopped, but we were getting some government cheddar, right?
Yes. Yes. And 2024 was a bit less expected, I
Mm,
really thought, and part of it wasn't just I think everybody was still recovering from COVID, but then my restructuring was one of the toughest things it was the toughest of my entire career.
mm,
So having that behind me, I feel a little bit like a phoenix, like coming out of this dust and this insanity and surviving that, and my team sticking through it with me and getting the full picture of what we're doing. So that next mountain, let me just be clear and answer your question. And the dream projects are, these international projects, knowing that I have this team I can trust. We've got everything right down to like submittals. They have that on lockdown. We
mm.
have our processes all in place. And I'm more energized about this year than I have been in a very long time.
Awesome. Um, well, I love that. Thank you for sharing. And then going back, like I always like to finish on a high note, and I'm going to get there, but I love the Phoenix metaphor, and I've been through restructuring, and it's like there's times in that, and you were sharing how hard it was, but there's times when you're doing that, me included, not you, we as entrepreneurs, there's just like you can't see the next day, let alone the next hour. Um, what was the moment it clicked, and you're like, okay, I I feel like a phoenix now, or I'm soaring. And what was the moment that that happened for you?
Let me be very clear. I felt like I had a few of those moments, and then I was down in down in the dirt again. So I was like, "Okay, we're out of it." No, we're not. And, I'll just be very vulnerable with you for a minute. When I went through the restructuring, it was very difficult in terms of like my team had been very stressed, and losing core team members that I just didn't want to do this without. And then hiring, and really restructuring and making sure we had the proper amount of people in
Mm,
place so that our team wasn't getting burnt out and people had normal lives, myself ideally included. And then you've got all these new people and like who's working and who's not, and finding their sweet spots. And that was definitely a process. I think, I think having, so every year now we bring everyone in from every city, DC, Charleston, Atlanta, um, Miami, like all of our team comes in. And it was, when I say it was my Christmas, I mean, I could have just cried like all week. I had my team here for a week collaborating together. We did, I mean, in the evenings we had karaoke's and parties and carbone. Brought in a female master som to talk to the team about how to order wine for dinner. And it just was an unbelievable week. We threw a
mm,
rager and had a great party, and had invited some of the people that have been so supportive of Studio 11 through everything. And that week was a defining week for me where I'm like, we're finally there. Like, I cannot wait to start 2025.
so to me, as I heard you say that, it was really like the people and the team that's going to help you like get all the gear together to climb that next summit. And for me, I thank you for sharing that, because for me, I think, as I was restructuring my life, I was having a lot of conversations. And then when I saw the team that was there for the next step and the people, and it just clicked, I was like, okay, I got this. We got this. And it was like, there's this feeling of support, and um, we're just unstoppable. And it's pretty
Yeah.
awesome.
When you have that backbone and you have the right team and everybody's on the same path with the same vision, and I'm really looking forward to 2025 having more. people be faces of the firm.
Mm.
Like, having some of these incredible designers and this amazing talent step out and represent Studio 11 as a face of the firm as well.
Estudio Once.
Estudio 11.
Um, Kelly, this has been amazing, and thank you. I love it when people when we share this kind the vulnerable moments too, because I think as all the listeners that listen who are thinking about taking that entrepreneurial step or new on that entrepreneurial step, I think much in the same way that we felt connected with the team that was going to bring us up the next mountain. Um, I feel like these stories and sharing these experiences help those people just know that it's normal. They got it, and
And I want to say this, it all looks really super cute on social media and it looks really great on LinkedIn. And you see all these achievements and these awards or these articles. And I think a lot of times, I want to be very transparent and very honest with people about it's not always that it's messy
mm,
and it's tough and it is hard. And I think I'm tough. But there's things that'll like, bring you to your knees at times that, you don't see on the outside. And I hope, our vulnerability as owners can really give hope to the people that are just starting in their own hustle
yeah.
and keep going.
I agree, and it's also important. I know we did a little visioning there and just kind of thinking about what the future is, but I think that's also a great thing that we can always attach our ropes to as we make the next ascent. So I just want to say thank you. Oh, before I say thank you, if people want to connect with you or learn more about Studio Once, um, and your branding and art, like what's a good way for them to do that?
I would say the Studio 11 Instagram.
Cool,
So if you have that link and can share that,
perfect.
and I'd love for people to follow us and give feedback and reach out. And I see the messages, and I always love the encouragement and the engagement that everyone has. I will say, don't do LinkedIn. I'm terrible at that. I think that's where you and we were LinkedIning for a minute, and I'm the worst at LinkedIn. So, but the Instagram outlets for Brand Bottega, Luverne, or Studio 11 are going to be great.
Perfect. And we'll put all that in the show notes. But I just want to say, Kelly, it's a pleasure to know you and to be your friend and to see you on this really cool journey. Um, so thank you. I appreciate you and you inspire me.
Same, Dan. And I'm grateful that you're kind of a part of the village that keeps me going.
Oh, good.
So thank you.
Well, I'm glad to be a villager. And also, thank you to all of our listeners and watchers, or however you're getting us. Please don't forget to leave a comment, leave a rating or a star. It all helps with the distribution and the continued growth of all of these awesome stories from everyone in our village. I appreciate you all, and we'll check you next time.